Going
We're
live.
in the right place.
We-
I've been talking to people on YouTube's already.
We are live.
Splendid.
So live. Like liver than we've ever been. Probably the livest.
There we go. YouTube's got a delay on it, which is always interesting because
Yeah.
I'll keep it up for the questions, but then like 5 seconds later, it'll be like, oh, he's scratching his ear. Possibly 10 seconds later. Hang on, let's see how long this. Yep, there we go. It's about a 10, 15 second delay. Good evening, fine people. We're not fine people.
Do you guys hear that?
All right. Oh, hang on. I got to turn the fucking. Hang on. There we go. All right, we're back. Sorry. Had the volume on the bloody thing. Oh, shit. You there?
No, Evan's gone.
We lost Evan.
Mute. You're on mute, buddy.
Do you guys hear the echo?
Yeah, that was because I think that was because I had the headphones on. I'm not hearing any other echo though.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo on my end.
I got no echo. I can put headphones on if yeah, let me put headphones on just in case it is on my end. Hang on.
This is such a trip.
Your screen's flashing again. It's really weird. I don't know what's going on.
I think it's time for a new webcam. That's what I think's going on.
Let me do audio. I'll drop hang on, Macbook Pro, Hugo 2.
That fix it? Yeah, it seemed to fix it.
All right, there we go. I'll put headphones on, see if that's any better. No echo here. Okay, good. People on the other. Oh shit! Yeah, I'm getting an echo. Is one of you guys watching the YouTube?
I'm not.
Bryan, you got YouTube on?
I've got it on, but it's muted.
You sure?
Yeah, 100%.
Weird. Okay. Well, we've got ghosts in the shell, ghosts in the machine. We're screwed. It is what it is. It's if this is all that goes wrong, it is what it is.
This is such a trip.
Yeah, I've got mine. I've got mine. Mine's definitely off. I'm sitting there with it muted.
I'm not really hearing any echoes.
I can hear talking in the background. Now that I've got the headphones on, I can hear talking in the background.
This is such a trip.
Yeah, this is such a trip. So somewhere or other, YouTube is playing. We can actually hear it, but it's playing from.
I'm gonna close. All right,
Yeah,
I closed YouTube. Anything being picked up?
Test.
I don't even want to say anything because I'm giving myself a brain.
All right, I've killed mine as well. Let's see what happens with it.
Evan, you don't have YouTube open, do you?
No.
Is Marlis watching in the other room?
No.
This is weird.
Oh,
This is the weirdest. This is the weirdest shit ever.
Because I can hear it coming through now.
yeah. Mine's closed. Yours is closed.
Mine's closed.
Oh, I hate computers. Sometimes I really freaking hate computers. All right, it is what it is.
Game on.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Everybody. Apparently, we're having some technical challenges. It's been one of those days today. I'm actually going to open it.
Mine's closed. Do you still hear the echo?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It might take a minute.
Where the hell is it coming from?
Yeah, I can hear it now too.
Yeah. Do we want to drop off and come back on again, or are we just going to deal with it and be done with it?
It's Jim Hambone. That's who's doing it.
Jim Hambone's not here anymore. Jim Hambone's gone.
I don't know. What do we want to do? We just gonna power through, or do we want to try a reboot?
You want to try a restart? We'll just tell
I could have swore we just said that.
We did, yeah. Do we want to do a restart and try it again, or do you want to just power it to Ryan's point, power it through?
This is like ultimate shit show.
Oh yeah.
All right, let me.
It's really coming from Evan. Tony, everybody's saying, Evan, it's your fault, apparently. God only knows how it's your fault, but is there something weird with how you're doing it? You're not in the garage. Is it because you're not in the garage?
This is like what it was like when Ryan was doing it last week on drugs. It's coming from me?
According to the audience, yeah, it's all your fault.
I'm feeling much better not on drugs on this episode.
Shit. What the hell did I just do?
You just asked me if it was in the garage, or are you asking me again if it was in the garage?
No, I'm saying you. What the hell am I doing? I hate computers. I'm actually putting it up on here to see if there's anything we can actually do. If there's anything on this side. All right, what do we want to do? Do we want to kill it, restart it, or do we just want to power it through? Vote. I don't care either way.
Doesn't matter to me. What do you want to do?
Wait a second. Where'd it go?
Give it about 10. Yeah, let's give it 10 seconds to see if it is just you.
How could it be me? What did I do? I didn't do anything.
All right, so we're done.
Is the live stream still going?
Yeah, I'm sitting on the live stream at the moment. It's still going.
What the hell changed?
Fuck if I know.
I'm going to blame it on Google. Google's evil.
I'm good with that. All right, so we're live.
That was the most interesting, awesomest beginning of any show ever. It was
Welcome
beautiful.
to the shit show.
Wait a second. Give it 10 seconds. Are you going to say it again?
Shit show.
Shit show.
Oh, I haven't had enough alcohol.
Wait a second. Give it 10 seconds. Are you going to say it again?
You're good. You're good.
No.
All right.
Wait, I suppose we can swear on the show. I can say fuck. What the
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. Remember, this is the adult. There is a warning with this one. All right. Can we please talk about acronyms and the stupid shit that we have going on in our fucking universe these days?
You had a story. Were you going to share a story with us, or did you already share it?
Hang on, which story?
I don't know.
Oh,
You
that's
were
today?
gonna rant. There was a
I
rant.
was going to have a
coming.
rant. Oh
Yeah.
God, no! I'm just not even going to go there. I'm taking a deep breath. I'm having alcohol because it's been one of those days. Let's just put it that way.
I don't have any of that.
No.
So, I mean, I'll kick it off, right? We got, so once again, we run into a barrier where we're making security and IT incompatible with everyday everyone. And the way that we're doing that is through a lot of our terminology, right? And every industry has specific terminology for a reason. But what we do is we try to use our terminology when we're talking to people outside of our industry. I'll give you an example. When I was doing support in the early days, the user would say, what's wrong? And I would attempt to actually explain what the problem was, only to see them become disengaged, frustrated. Yes, but is it fixed? That's really all I care about. Towards the end of my support career, it was the thing that makes the spinny thing spin broke. It's better now.
Yeah.
They say, oh my God, I love you. Thank you so much. You're a great help, right? There's a line between going into detail. So think about your doctor, for example. The medical industry is full of acronyms and terminology. But when a doctor's talking to a patient, they don't talk to them like they're talking to another doctor. And a lot of times when we're talking to end users, when we're talking even to others outside of our narrow specialties, we use terminology and acronyms that are, familiar to us within our circle, but outside of our circle, it really starts to muddy our message. And that I think is rooted a lot in, people don't want to be dumb, but people also need to be engaged to learn. So that's my opener to this. What do you guys have?
I don't like it.
Play off of that. You don't like it?
No, I'm just kidding. I liked it. I was kidding. Just giving you
No,
shit.
you shouldn't like it. Who's devil's advocate here?
Oh, Chris is a really good devil's advocate. I can be a devil's advocate if you want.
I'll play both sides for it to some degree because there is an argument. I mean, there is an argument to say that we do need. We've made up some of our own words. Let's face it. Over the last goodness knows how many years, because we've had to, because things didn't exist. Perfect example. I saw a great thing up on LinkedIn the other day when somebody the help desk call as it's one. It's like, I'm being told I have to install a snake. And it goes backwards and forwards, and then it's like, okay, sir, please read me the message. Well, it tells me to install Python before continuing. Perfect example. Perfect example. I mean, we all remember years ago when somebody said, click the mouse on the screen. What did people do? They took the mouse, they put it on the freaking screen. And so what we haven't done is taken our language and tried to normalize it. And we're not talking normal humans, just baseline it and normalize it. And it's something Gabrielle over at Wiser basically sent me the task. He's like, look, I've done a couple of posts up on LinkedIn about this where I've gone through the acronyms and all the other crap, and I've turned it into English. But he's like, look, you need to make a bigger compendium, like pretty much though, start building a dictionary out of this thing. And I'm sitting with it now. I've got a bunch of this where I've taken our language and I've tried explaining it in two ways. One, in a simplified version, to your point, hard disk drive, spinning disks, or stuff like that, whatever it is. But there's something where I'm also trying to actually explain it properly. We talk about blockchain, remember the old ways of doing accounting with two ledgers. It's the digital version of that with a whole lot more ledgers and a damn sight more accountants. People can understand that. And then maybe you give a shorter description, which is, something about blockchain or whatever. But it's definitely one of those where what I want to do is I want to do it almost as partly as a dictionary, but partly as a translation compendium type of thing. Because I do think we've gone so far up our own answers with this shit now. I mean, again, I was on a call today where actually part of the reason one of my previous companies came up with EDR and EDN and EDM, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Even I don't know, and I'm the one that helped build some of this shit. And then this place now, they're talking about pen testing and assessments and stuff like that, and they're like, well, we're going to give them a VAPT. I'm like, what the fuck is a VAPT? And it was something pen test. I'm like, why don't you just call it a freaking penetration test? Well, it's different than a risk assessment. I'm like, yeah, but, and so we get into this. I'm like, just call it what the fuck it is. Are you doing an assessment? Are you just scanning them? Are you actually rattling the doors and trying to break in?
Well, I agree with that. I think there is a little bit of non-geek, non-tech does have a little bit to learn, but to the points you just pointed out, because there's so many silos and nuanced, and I want to package it this way and name it this way so it has a competitive market advantage, or I'm trying to describe a bundle differently. The handful of things that we want them to really learn gets lost in that, gets lost in trying to, create the new thing that isn't truly a new thing. I think about zero trust a lot and how that's just being pumped and pumped and pumped. Well, it's not new.
It's not exactly. I mean, it really isn't new. And again, back to this whole 12 vendors trying to sell the same shit. Each one of them's coming up with an entirely new acronym or way of calling it.
Right.
Why, again, back to this, for whatever deity is freaking listening, can we not please try to do this the same? Stop blinding us with bloody dazzling us and bullshitting us, basically. Brain's gone to sleep. I can't even get my words out properly. Need more alcohol, apparently.
Well, so why do we create so many acronyms? I mean, is it one reason is to sell shit, right? We can sell more shit because it sounds cooler. We see that. Another reason I think we make up acronyms to make ourselves feel cooler. I know last week one of the things that was brought up in our discussion was condescending. Sometimes we come off that way. And I think sometimes we probably do that intentionally, right? Throw out a bunch of acronyms. And if you don't know what an acronym is, like, what are you, stupid? How could you not know what RPCA is?
That link you just put up. I mean, I hope I put it up on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, 20, almost 22 or 21, 29 acronyms and abbreviations. I remember years ago, you guys might have gone through this. I mean, it was shit, pre-Morgan. So 17, 18 years ago, I was down in Atlanta and I remember going for a job and it was in the network security side of the world. Went through all the tests and they literally sat me down. One of the final tests was sitting down and they handed me this sheet of acronyms. And I had to tell them what each acronym was. And I mean, it was a sheet. It was like two columns. I will never forget this, 2 fucking columns of acronyms. And it was all basically Cisco acronyms or Cisco networking acronyms. And I'm like, I get about maybe a third to a halfway through these. And I'm like, guys, I don't know what the fucking, I do not know what the rest of these acronyms are. They're like, well, your CCIE and your what? I'm like, yeah, I am. But I actually speak English, which is kind of amazing for a geek. So how about we have a conversation about what context you want to use this fucking thing in? And then I'll tell you what it actually is.
Well, and part of it stems from shorthand and credibility, right? That's where I think a lot of acronyms come from is shorthand. Can you imagine typing out emails if we didn't use acronyms? The problem is it becomes acronym soup.
Yeah.
And here's my perfect example of an acronym. It's the simplest one of all that's most prevalent with the most different meanings to geek and non-geek these days. And that's IP.
Well, I peed before we started.
How many flavors do you want me to? Am I talking to a lawyer? Because it means something completely different.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
but you bring up a great point, Ryan. You have to. It's just like, I talk differently to different people. Consider your audience, right? If I'm in a board meeting, I'm not, I'm not saying, swear words. I'm not, I'm not as loose with my, language, but, when I'm amongst friends, I'm probably using more acronyms. Maybe it's, sometimes, because I think it's okay to use acronyms if the person you're talking to understands the acronym.
Right.
Yeah.
If they don't understand the acronym, are they too intimidated to tell you? Because sometimes I feel stupid when I'm in a group of 5 or 6 security people or whatever, and they're using an acronym and I don't know what it means. I'm like, I don't know if I want to ask. Maybe I'll go just Google that later.
I'll ask. I've gotten to the point these days where I'll ask. When I first heard this whole, whatever the hell it was, VAPT or something, I'm like, what the hell is that? Well, don't you know this? You're 25 plus years in the industry. I'm like, no, I have no fucking clue what it is. You want to explain to me what this new acronym is? And they did. I'm like, okay, so why don't we actually call it what it actually is? Because you're talking, yeah.
Do you guys think acronyms stem from complexity? Because it's a way to simplify the complex. Most acronyms, if you look at what they represent, it's about this long.
Yeah. Well, there was Will just put up a really good one. He was talking about the iSCSI stuff, and he's totally right. I mean, there are times when you just want to use iSCSI because you want to use iSCSI, but there are times, and I just responded to him like, there are times you're going to have to explain what the hell that is to your grandmother. Mm-hmm. So you better be ready to explain what it's a highway. It's a super highway or it's a small highway, and across this highway, all sorts of data is going, and here's how fast or how slow, whatever. But I think you need to be, if you're going to use that acronym, you better be ready to back it up and understand and be able to explain what it is. Evan, I think you're right. Talking amongst us, we'll use it. But we've got to be cognizant because, our audience is listening and I don't want them to go WTF. Same thing you're saying with the boardroom.
Well, I just learned, so in some of the things kind of for today. So, I sent that link with all the abbreviations. I would say 50% of those I've never heard of before, and I've been in this industry, 30 years, and I don't know what the hell some of this stuff means.
Well, here's my problem with acronyms. I know what it means in the context in which I know it, but when you repurpose it for a different context, I have no effing idea what you're talking about.
Well, and some acronyms though are ones that you've never even heard of before. So even if I told you the context,
here's a new one: Cyberzyme. I don't know that one. Well, Cyberzyme.
Well, so today I didn't know what CAPTCHA meant, or what its actual words were. I didn't even know.
Magazine.
No. I didn't even know it was a damn acronym, but it stands for Completely Automatic Public Turing Test to Tell Computers and Humans Apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you knew that?
Because I had to Google it because I got curious one day what the hell it meant.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I was like, what does this mean? And then it made perfect sense to me because I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, you're right. It's and to Chris's point, and this goes back to something we talked about a couple episodes ago. It's the pace. We are pumping out brand new, never existed before. I need to come up with a name for it stuff at such an accelerated rate. And then everybody, when it, all the new frameworks, well, the frameworks got to have their acronyms to go with them. I mean, and then we try to convey this, and simplify it, and then you get new acronyms. Not to mention the ones that we use, like WTF and BS. And
see, cyberdesign doesn't really even count as an acronym because it's not truly an acronym. It's just
that's why
I was like,
somebody, Will just said he was just talking about it. He was, like, hey, I was a former military, and he's like, and that's its entire own acronym soup from hell. And especially because of the regiment that I was in, we had our own, speak even inside of that. So, I mean, you literally had military speak, and then we had our speak inside of it, which was always interesting. So, here's the difference. I think within military, you have military talking to military, and to some degree, that's fine because more often than not, the only people that talk to the public are the ones with, basically bird crap on their shoulders. And so that's fine. They came from the Hooray Henrys anyway, so they're used to talking to normal people. And so that was fine. But here, every single one of us, almost without fail, is interfacing both with technical people and non-technical people. And so there is an argument to say that each one of us really should understand this a lot more effectively.
And be able to switch, be able to, I mean, if you're just kind of an egotist, and you like to use acronyms to make yourself seem smarter than the other person you're talking to, you're just a jerk, if you're doing that. But for the rest of us, consider who you're talking to, right? It's not like you're talking down to them. You're just speaking their language, right? It's not like, German's any better than, English, but you have to have a translation between the two, right? If I know both languages, then I can switch and speak one. It's kind of the same thing, right? You have to, and be okay. It's okay to stop and be like, ask if you understand what I'm saying, kind of thing,
I think that goes back to a lot of people, again, especially in our industry, and especially when surrounded by peers, don't like to put their hand up and go, can you explain that, please?
Right.
I notice it at conferences. You guys are probably the same way. When you present at a conference, I notice it a lot more, especially in the live audience. It's actually been really nice doing all the video stuff recently because, I just did a webcast yesterday or the day before, and we got 50, 60 questions coming in. Whereas with a live audience, typically you maybe get 5 or 10 questions. But because there's that layer of separation there, because we're not all looking at each other, I think people are a lot happier actually asking questions and calling bullshit or putting stuff out there. I think it frustrates me because damn well if one person's asking it, 10 other people are thinking the same thing.
Well, yeah, and I always notice the after effect. So you'd get on stage, you'd make time for Q&A, you'd ask, nobody'd have anything, so you'd prompt them with questions. So you'd be like, well, commonly one thing I hear is, right? You prompt them, and then somebody asks a question because now you've got it kind of rolling. And then you get off stage and there's 15, 20 people in line waiting to ask you a question.
Yeah, I'm like, why the fuck didn't you ask me that while you're on stage? There's another 20 people want to know the answer. I
reserved time for this. There was a slide about this, big question mark on it. So it's Q&A.
Well, one of the things that I've been doing lately, because I don't know who I'm talking to sometimes, like I gave a talk yesterday it was an 8-hour talk to higher ed, I don't know, it was like 11, 12 institutions, they're security folks. And we were talking about NIST CSF. And what I didn't know my audience. I had no idea who I was talking to. Were they a bunch of security people? Were they people that, are brand new to security? Is it business people who want to learn more about security? So I didn't know shit about these people. So, and I knew that going in. So I created a poll in my, in Zoom and ask them a series of questions so that I could understand more about, okay, these guys maybe don't have as much experience with this as I thought they did. So it helps me kind of figure out where to talk, because what I don't want to do is just start throwing out a bunch of acronyms and start going deep into security stuff. And these people are like, I don't even, I'm out. I don't know what this guy's saying, So I think sometimes we can do maybe a little better job of understanding who our audience is before we start talking, maybe ask some questions to figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's part of it. Or again, to your point, if it's face to face, you can sometimes, at least within the first couple of seconds, first 30 seconds, gauge whether you're losing somebody or not, and then understand whether, where to gauge how that communication has to go.
It's interesting you bring that up because when I present to school audiences, I could be dealing with a vast variety of different personality types in the sense of job function, job role, what do they care about, what's going to resonate with them. So a lot of times I'll survey because I don't know how many tech directors versus teachers versus social workers versus superintendents, and they all have something slightly different that's going to take the same topic and it's going to land with them. And what's going to land with the tech director isn't what's necessarily going to land with the superintendent, isn't necessarily. And when you have this mixed audience, right, almost always I have to do a room survey to kind of set tone to go, okay, hey, quick show of hands. How many of you are with this job role? Oh, okay, it's almost all teachers in this room. I'm going to go this angle with it. Oh, I've got a really mixed crowd. I'm going to spend more time elaborating on things to make it well-rounded. I'm going to do 4 different analogies on the same exact thing to make sure I hit my target.
Well, and to that point too, if you can do that, I mean, the good thing with the online, conferences is now I can do that, right? I can put a poll up and have people answer questions, and then I can, while I'm talking, I can see, oh, all right, I know where we're at. Because another question that I had asked in the poll was, what do you want to get out of this? What do you want to learn? Because maybe I didn't prepare that stuff and I'll have to switch, or in our break, I can go find a bunch more resources to try to help you. But, I think so much of this is acronyms are fine, just like in any communication, if you understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand, well, then we've got a disconnect. And to your point, Chris, you absolutely better be able to explain the acronym you're using rather than just throwing them out there, right?
Yep.
Well, and I think too that we've traditionally speaking, those that are highly fluent in geek are generally less fluent in common speak, or are less and I'm being very stereotypical here, and I apologize for that, but traditionally speaking,
I'm offended.
The geek tribe. Oh, somebody's going to send me an email. The geek tribe has not had the best at interacting with those outside of their tribe. They don't have the greatest track record with that, right?
All right.
So
I got a good one. Yeah.
So to tie that off in a knot, it's, we've got to do a better job of figuring out how we're going to educate folks to know the things we want them to know, because they do need to speak a little bit of our language too. They need that, Evan level of Spanish, right? They need to be able to speak
Hola.
just enough, so that I can convey basic principles to you, but I don't have to take you on the journey, and I should never expect you to know what I know. Right? That's irresponsible. My doctor does not expect me to know as much about medicine as he does or she does.
So let me add a little fuel to that fire, shall we? So I got hit up with by an extremely good friend of mine today, and she was like, "Hey," and she just got hit up by this company. She's like, "Can you do me a favor? Just give a quick sanity check to these folks." I'm like, "Okay." So I went off and I did a little bit of sanity check, and I found their website. Then I found a bit of the website that they haven't made public, but it's still there. Let me read something for you. This is one of their products: autonomous efficiency management, throughput quantification, efficient, which is spelled wrong, Performance analysis workflows determine unit compute throughput for every application deployed in your infrastructure without the need for synthetic traffic generation or isolated environments to simulate real-time workloads. Safe throughput quantification is done in production, ensuring consistent service experience without interruptions during execution. What the is that?
I have no idea. You lost me like 3 words in. I was like,
I lost you at quantum.
I mean, that's their description of one of their fucking products.
And I, at this point, know that it does fuck all.
I don't know what it does, right?
It's just like, what the fuck? I can read it again if you want. That first sentence, I'm not kidding.
No, I'm already so impressed. I'm already so impressed. I'm sold. I'm sold.
Do you want to know about the hybrid?
Send me the link so I can go buy some of that. I want to buy some.
Make me an acronym of what that is. Just take the first letter of every word.
And by the way, the product is called Quark. It's their company name and then Quark. I'm like, you arrogant bastards. Yeah, combined with throughput quantification, their efficiency provides an ensemble version of predictive and reactive resizing of your applications. Your fleet is sized to address seasonal needs, modeling with past traffic trends and unexpected surges based on business demands. I'm like, God fucking hell, damn it. I don't know.
Quantification. Now you got me curious.
Blinded with bullshit or dazzled with whatever the hell it is, and I can't remember it is.
Well, and you see that, and that's the wrong part, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of people who really do want to communicate well, that really do want to get the point across with management and people who don't speak my language natively, right? And to those people, kudos. We need to work together better to do better, right? And then these jackoffs who are, trying to pull the wool over people's eyes.
These bunch.
Yeah, we got to do something about it. There was a guy, I can't remember, on Twitter yesterday who he was ranting about somebody who was brand new into the industry, and he shared a bunch of the tweets that people were just really rude to this new, security person. And it's not about this, but so I DM'd him. I'm like, if you feel comfortable, give me names.
Yeah.
I would love to know who these people are, not because I want to be, I don't want to do anything bad, but we got to hold them accountable. This is bullshit. It's either we police ourselves or the government's going to do it for us.
It's a whole other ball of wax. I mean, I know they've tried in some ways. Ryan, can you smack your camera again? Just give it a quick upside to side. Every now and again it fuzzes, and every now and again it's going whoosh. It's kind of cool.
Better? I'll get a new one. This thing's gone to shit. I'll get a new one.
We'll crowdsource you one.
I've got an idea. What if we limited the use of $10 words? So you're only allowed to use like 2 to 4 $10 words. Because that's, if I think back to some of the simplest communicators I know, they were the grandpas. They had their kind of those Norwegian grandfathers, right? They're like, if you said something too convoluted, they look at you and go, "Ain't no room for a $10 word here."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's some basic understandings we need to get back to. Because if we want to bridge the gap, if we want to truly get people to change how they view the problem, how they view technology, how they view the geeks, right? Why should they listen? I mean, how many times have we tried to explain something to somebody because they asked us, and halfway or less into the explanation, they check out?
3 times.
Only 3?
3 times.
And so I don't know. It's I like the idea of what Gabriel's up to and what you're helping out with. I like the idea that, we've got to get something on some kind of Rosetta Stone, right? There needs to be that Rosetta Stone that says, this is to this, this is to that. I was thinking about this actually today. Wow, this thing is failing on me. Well, if it dies mid-day, sorry. So I was thinking about this today because I'm trying to design questions for folks over 55. I want to ascertain their security knowledge.
You just go.
I'm sorry, my camera too.
Mine's on the laptop, which apparently is going to be outmoded before the end of the year because Apple's about to go off onto another fucking quarry of hey, we're going to build, we're doing our own hardware again. I'm like, didn't you do that a few years ago? And yeah, it didn't work out well, did it, you dumbasses?
Apple's not the same company without, without
Oh,
Jobs, man. It's changed so
can
much.
we just dig him up and just like automate him or something? I mean, seriously, just put a fucking, what the hell is the Apple version of Google's Alexa or whatever the hell that is? Just stuff
Oh,
one above his bum or something.
right.
Wire him up for 10 minutes. Hey, Steve, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
Well, yeah,
good.
because have they innovated anything in the last since he died? I mean, anything like revolutionary?
No, I mean it's baubles and bullshit. I mean seriously. I mean
Right.
I don't
You
need
you
another
just added
fucking
another.
icon and emoji.
Well, you just add another damn camera lens to my camera. I don't give a shit. How many camera
Yeah,
lenses do I need?
right. It's fix fucking accounts D, and then maybe we'll have a conversation about some of your innovation.
Right. Right. All right. So Ryan, you were saying
Well, I don't want to tell you now.
something about.
Sorry.
Well, it was your camera. It was so cool.
So basically, it's this, guys. So I'm thinking it through today, and I'm trying to how would I ask a 55-year-old or 55 plus community? How do I engage them in the world of cyber safety? What are the relevant things in their lives that I need to connect to? What are the right?
I did a talk. I've got to get you the slides. Hit me up offline. I'll give
Okay,
you. I did
will.
one. I called it gunning for grandma. We had so much fucking fun with this. It was
So,
all. I mean,
yeah.
all blue rinse. It was all blue rinse. We had a
I love it
shit ton load of fun.
because there's two avenues for this. So I've been doing pre-COVID. I was doing a lot of talks with the Rotary Club throughout my community, and now I'm working on this questionnaire to add into the S2Me, because the S2Me is inclusive, but there's some specific narrowed nuances to certain demographics that we want to dial into. And so definitely send me them slides. The reason I brought that up was to say how you're going to approach that audience and the analogies, the examples, right? Because we've got to get better at examples when we're doing the teaching if we expect folks to do the learning. And we're all teachers. Every one of us in this industry is a teacher, whether you realize it or don't realize it. And you have, in my opinion, and probably people will disagree, but in my opinion, if you're going to do this work, then you have an obligation to help people get better at this. Just like a plumber has an obligation to make sure my pipes don't leak. Just like the fireman has an obligation to put the fire completely out, right? We count on these people, and we're part of that. It will be recognized at some point that the work we do in our industry is a critical part of the overall ecosystem and making sure the world functions.
The problem is we're not accountable at the moment. I mean, the challenge is, I mean, when the plumber comes around, if something doesn't work, there's at least a level of accountability, a level of warranty or something along those lines. There's nothing with us, next to nothing. There's next to nothing with us from that standpoint. Otherwise, we wouldn't have half the shit we would. I'd be selling you antivirus, be like, oh, it'll be fine. You'll be absolutely protected, 100% protected.
Right.
And then, 2 days later, you get your ass handed to you. Everything's locked up. And you look at me, I'm like, well, you didn't really have your firewall configured properly, or you didn't have something else on it. It's not my problem.
Yeah,
Well,
read the fine print. It was only 100% effective when the computer's not on.
Unplugged and put through a chipper shredder.
Right.
Yeah,
See
no
what Chris
shit.
can do.
Yeah. Oh God.
And that actually came up today on a call with a client of mine. We were talking about a couple of phishing emails that slipped through all the filters. That slipped through. Okay, can we block more on the firewall? What more can we do to stop this? And I had to give them there's never 100% guarantee. I had to say there is no 100% secure. Now I gave them another security control to implement that will further reduce the likelihood of something slipping through. But the reality is, I said, you need to be prepared that something will slip through. Hence why I stress the incident response plans and the disaster recovery plans and the detection and, partner. If you can't monitor your network all the time, find somebody who can.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to find the gunning for grandma on my computer and I just gave up. So I just Googled it on the internet, and apparently it's up on the slides on the internet. The first 2 pages of the internet are all about my gunning for grandma slides.
Nice.
Nice.
I'll send you the
Awesome.
gunning. I'll send. Apparently, it's up on SlideShare. I'll send it to you. Gunning for grandma. Sweet.
See,
I didn't realize.
That's not normally a search that I would do. But this one time.
Apparently, I can't find shit on my own computer, but I can find
But you
my
can find it
stuff
on the internet. I love it.
Oh, that's
awesome.
scary. Yeah, have fun. Gunning for grandmas. I'm actually going to send it to everybody. Fuck it. Yeah, if anybody wants grandma. Should this shit have a drink?
Yeah, how much you had?
Wants grandma slides.
Gunning for granny. Is that it?
No, gunning for grandma. Gunning for grandma.
Well, the link's gunning for granny.
Oh yeah, the link's gunning for granny, but the first slide is gunning for grandma.
63 slides, my lord.
Oh, suck it up, Buttercup.
All right, I'm on slide 2 now. Hold on.
Most of my slide, when I talk for like an hour, my slide decks for an hour are about 100, 110, 120 slides long.
Wow.
Because it's fun. I have so much freaking fun with slides.
Yeah.
And it's just one thing on the slide, or it's a transition slide. It's just something stupid, something crazy, and it's a transition slide. It's just
Yeah, I do a lot of that stuff too now. I won't use the animations in the slide, because if I give you the slide deck afterwards, in like a form of a PDF, you won't see the animations. So I just do a new slide with what was supposed to be there in the animation.
God, I've forgotten about this one. Yeah, there's some fun stuff on this one. All right, I'll let you guys have some fun with it. It is now up on the internets.
Cool. All right, so acronym stuff.
Oh, yeah, let's get back.
Yeah, what's the problem? Do we have too many acronyms? Do we not use them appropriately? Because I'm one of those guys where, like, I don't mind acronyms if I know what the hell they mean, right? But if you're just throwing out acronyms, I will need to stop you and ask, and don't get frustrated with me.
Yeah, I think there is, first off, we got to get over this barrier to be afraid to not know something. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is our industry as a whole, to the point you were making about the newbie and getting all this flack for being a newbie. Well, maybe if we all behaved more like newbies and asked questions when we didn't know stuff, that might help that. But that aside, I think if you're
now that newbie is my friend, and we're going to try to find these other people and hold them accountable. So that's another, it just made a brain connection. That's one of the things I think we can do too, is a lot more mentoring. Mm-hmm. Who are you friends with, right? It's not just about being friends with, you guys that have lots of information security experience, but I want to be friends with somebody who's brand new in the industry. Mm-hmm. So that what I don't want them to do is go down the wrong path. I don't want them to take shortcuts. I don't want them to do what we see wrong in this industry. So anyway, you were talking about
I think beating people up. Yeah, so that's part of it, because then you get rid of the embarrassment factor to ask, what is the acronym? What the hell combination of words did you just use? And not just acronyms, terms. There are crazy these terms, right? Or we're using terms from other areas interchangeably, like Chris's example with this quantification. Well, that's borrowed from our science and academia world, right? It means unit of measure. It's a $10 word. You could have said measure, right? So there's a little bit of that. And if you're not a wordsmith, you're probably not familiar with all these, SAT words that never get used in real life.
Right.
So that's part of it. The other part is if you're going to use acronyms, be willing to explain what they meant, like you guys said, and it's got to have context around it. So if you throw it in an email, you got to put the long version. If you're not 100% sure the person you're talking to knows what the hell you're talking about, don't treat them as dumb. Do treat them as uninformed on the topic and explain it. If they already know what you're talking about, they'll skip right past that. They won't even read it. And if they don't know what you're talking about, now they might have a better idea. Well,
and use your Englishing correctly too in your email. Just type it out long form one time in parentheses, put the acronym, and then use the acronym the rest of the way.
Right.
I was just going to say it's the formal. I'm not sure if it's formal, semi-formal, whatever it is, but yeah, it's the right way. We do the same thing on like legal terms. NDAs. I mean, I'll put Hillbilly Hit Squad out there in brackets HHS, and the rest of the time it's flipping HHS because I'm buggered if I want to type it out. But at least I've told people what the hell it actually means.
Right.
Go, Evan. Back to your point, the newbie thing. Something I've been hanging out with, and actually Tony and I. So there's a freaking awesome guy up on LinkedIn, and you guys should look him up as well. In fact, anybody that's bloody listening should look him up. Guy by the name of Tony Bryan. He runs Cyber Up, and it's all about apprenticeships. It's all about bringing people in. A lot of folks transitioning from the military side of the world, coming in, and apprenticeships and apprenticeshipping coming into the industry. And what he's trying to do, and trying a fucking amazing job, is to basically open up companies to thinking about bringing on apprentices. So instead of, oh God, we can't find the right people, we'll bring an apprentice on through him, train them up, because normally they've got a GI Bill, so they can use some of that to help train as well. And off they go. Freaking awesome. It's just like, people like that are the people I want to partner up with. And then some folks on like Bridges in Tech that are like, okay, we're in the industry, but we're getting marginalized or we're getting discriminated or something. I'm like, okay, what the hell can we do to change that?
Well, and we're, and just because a lot of times you have to practice what you preach, right? I mean, if I'm going to preach to people, you need to mentor, you need to do more of that stuff. And I'm not doing it myself. And then I'm a hypocrite, right? So we started the CISSP mentor program, and then we had 1,400 students last year. And you have zero experience. You don't need to have any experience. It's not an intimidation thing. And we've also always, and I think more companies should do this, a whole nother topic that we could talk about is the talent shortage problem. The alleged.
We need to do that one week, definitely.
Yeah. Because
the alleged being the big right in there.
Totally. And because we've always hired for the intangibles. Most of the people we hire, I guess, if you were to look at them from, traditional experience and all that other stuff, most of them would probably be apprentices when we hired them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a great way to grow talent, make them loyal, build them into your culture, your mission. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. I love how we did.
And when we do unpack that, make sure we're going to tear up hiring managers and job descriptions and HR, because these job descriptions are ridiculous. That they ask for things that can't even happen.
Should we do that? That'll be my topic next week then.
One year of experience with the CISSP.
With the CISSP,
jump off a cliff.
So that stuff, Katia and I and a bunch of other folks have been talking about that again in like Bridges and Tech and a bunch of other forums. And there's something, again, to your point about like 1,400 people. I got hooked in with the CISO exec. It's a virtual boot camp to join basically for community. And it's all about cybersecurity and getting into the industry. How do we get into it? Shani put it up. She's freaking amazing. And I think she's got like 300 people signed up for this thing. And she's like, it's an entire boot camp about learning to become, somebody in this industry and somebody else who knows what the hell they're doing. And right. First time she's done it, it's like, holy shit. I'm like, this is amazing. And so there's so many people that want to come in. And I'm like, and to your point, I think we need to take some responsibility for that one though, because I know a number of times where HR managers and HR teams have come to us and gone, hey, we need a job description. Well, go look it up on the fucking internet. We don't help that. Anyway, so take a step back, get off the fucking soapbox, and go back to acronyms. Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Next week, we'll tear that one up.
Yeah, I'm good.
So here's an acronym I want to pick apart for a second. Picnic.
Yes, I will go on a picnic on Saturday with my wife.
You guys familiar with this one? Probably in chair, not in computer.
Yeah, there was the other one. It's like error. It's the key between error exists between keyboard and user and all that kind of big thing, keyboard and share and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or the layer 8.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm actually okay with layer 8. I'm actually okay with layer 8, layer 9 layers. I actually don't mind that.
Yeah.
Because it actually helps back to Ryan's, and I'm pointing now because Ryan's that way on my screen. Back to Ryan's thing from last week, the analog person digital world. We have this freaking 7-layer-ish, because let's face it, it's all over the fucking place these days. We have this 7 layers of digital shit, yet we don't ever talk about the human. And to me, like layer 8 user, layer 9 manager, layer 10 whatever. I
right?
actually like that. I would defend that one because it shows that integration.
Well, and you can defend, I mean, like anything, I think, depending on how you use it, right? I think if you're using layer 8 that way, I think it makes perfect sense. If you're using layer 8, you know, to rip
Yeah.
on users, well, that's a shitty way to use it, you know? So, and because it's used both ways. I mean, there's a company called Layer, or there's a Layer 8 conference, I think, that does a really good job on social engineering stuff. I haven't been to it, but
It is hard though. I mean, okay, so I will freely admit, have either of you two, or actually anybody that's listening in, have you either read Bastard Operator from Hell?
Can't say I have.
Oh man, I have. I'm just about to introduce you to something new and fun and great, but also slightly how do we put it? Slightly not necessarily politically correct these days. Not necessarily from some of the crap that we're doing, some of the crap that's going on in the world. There we go. I'll actually send you the link, and it's a bash site, so you'll appreciate it because it's proper text. It's none of this weird fucking internet shit. Okay, so the premises of Bastard Operator from Hell is, and I've so recognized myself in this, is it's literally the elitist geek that basically can do anything, take over anything, runs the entire thing, gets the manager the entire run around, gets people fired at random intervals, and just basically pisses off his poor intern and just uses and abuses the hell out of his intern. On one side, it's just like, yes. But on the other side, you're like, oh shit, we can't get away with that anymore these days. We have to change. So
very
read
true.
it, but yeah, you got to read it almost with tongue in cheek, but it's well worth reading. I'll just leave it at that.
Right. I got to jump real quick because I'm not feeling well and I got to
No,
go take
bro.
care of something. I'll be back. You
Okay,
guys keep talking.
we'll keep talking. I just
So,
put
all
out.
right, Chris, so there are useful acronyms, right? They do serve a purpose.
Yes.
So, what, in your opinion, is your favorite acronym?
Ooh. Okay, that's an interesting one. I'm actually sitting there. I'm looking at my. I don't know if it's favorite. I think the one that's most used these days is like IoT, something along those like Internet of Things, because it literally is the it's the bit bucket. It literally is it's the bit bucket for anything and everything that we can't figure out to put into a computer or on a fucking iPhone these days. I mean, yeah, I got a new widget. It's IoT. Just fucking it's used. Yeah, I mean, I think that way. I think that's the most used these days.
And do you think it's the most useful? Because I think the average person totally gets that one.
Yes, I think they do. Because I mean, when you and I think you're right. I think that is a useful like lead in that you don't want to keep saying Internet of Things. Although to some degree you do, because when you think of IoT, especially this day and age, it isn't just stuff in the home. It's stuff in the vehicle. It's stuff in the office now, let's be honest. And it's everything in between. It's everything that we travel with, everything that we wear. Arguably, and especially, the whole 5G stuff exploding, as it all runs up, it's going to be, I mean, that's just going to explode. Now, the problem is I don't know if you want to try and subdivide IoT, because I mean, if you look at the vehicle side of the world, you've got vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to pedestrian. Is basically V2X is vehicle to anything.
Right. Well, IoT already is starting to get segmented. You've got MIoT, or no, IOMT, Internet of Medical Things.
Because I did that medical. You know what? I actually didn't even run into that when I was doing all the work with little pills and shit like that.
Really?
Yeah, it was all of that was lumped under telehealth.
Interesting. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've seen it start to be separated where they talk about telehealth as the clinician interaction components.
Mm-hmm.
So having the video chat and the app, interacting with Epic. I don't even know if anybody uses anything else anymore, but interacting with Epic, and that piece of it, that clinician service delivery component, and then things like the IV pumps and this and smart, the Da Vinci surgery machine, all that stuff, they're classifying as an Internet of Medical thing. And the reason they're drawing that distinction is because they have distinctly different security profiles. And so as they're setting up their VDOMs, as they're setting up the different segmentations, how are they going to control these devices and give them different profiles? They found that it's easier to just classify them as a separate sub segment, so that things like the Voicera, right, the little clicker deal on the nurse's lapel for talking and tracking, that runs on a different network segment, but is still considered Internet of Things.
I know the one that I totally forgot that pisses me off and drives me nuts and makes me want to kill people more than anything else on this planet. AI.
Well, especially since everybody doesn't understand that it's not what they think it is.
Hands fucking down. I'm sorry. I was hands down. You're right. IoT is probably the most used. AI is the one that makes me cringe and makes me want to kill
most misused.
Oy vey. I think it is AI and ML. No, probably AI more than ML. ML seems to be like it's like the redheaded stepchild.
Well, I think what's interesting about, when we talk about AI is, first off, most people really don't understand. They have a sci-fi frame of reference for what this is. And, because if we said that it's, just a collection of stats that you learned in, college stats 101, all just clustered in a big pile, they'd go, that's not exciting. I hated stats. That was the worst class ever. That's not exciting to me at all. And I think you're right. And I think, the analogy that I use that really resonates with people. So I had a friend of mine got an Alexa and was all hyped up. He's like, dude, what do you think of this AI stuff? Non-tech guy, right? All hyped up. What do you think of AI? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? He's like, I got this Alexa. It's so cool. And he's like, it knows when I say its name. And I said, because it's listening all the time. And he goes, no, the AI knows when I call its name. I said, yes, because it's listening all the time. We went through this about 4 times before it clicked that the microphone has to be on, because I'm like, hey, let me hear it. You see this bullhorn? See how it's not on? Doesn't work, right? Now turn it on. See how it works, right?
Yeah.
So it was, and then they're like, yeah, but isn't it cool that they can detect all the voices? And I said, what you need to know is there's an entire sweatshop in the Philippines where people are listening to your recordings because they're trying to distinguish between the northern Minnesota accent, the Scottish accent, and the southern Alabama accent. And only a human being can make that distinction. And this isn't artificial intelligence. This is manual human categorization.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? And then, I don't know, it was a handful of months later, the story breaks. Yeah, Alexa's listening to you at the doctor, listening to you in your bedroom.
All the fucking everywhere. I mean, it's one of those. I'm probably a little more engaged and involved in some of that stuff because I'm actually helping to build out the extended ISO model for actually what artificial intelligence is. So ISO 2510 or 25010 is the model that's typically used for like programming and architecture and all that kind of good stuff. I'm actually helping the team to build out what intelligent architecture is and how we should fucking measure it properly rather than just listen to some of the vendors going, hey, we've got the best AI. Well, by what fucking yardstick are you measuring this?
That it's been quantified.
Yeah.
It's got quantum tasticness. That's the one I want to see. I want to see the vendor that's like, listen, it's the most quantum tastic, elastic, fantastic that you've ever seen in your life. If you don't start selling me security products like they sell me ShamWows, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, some of them are. The RSA floor is ShamWow shit. Fucking, I hate that shit.
So I was trying to find you. We were playing, a tag or whatever on the Twitter. I was trying to find you, and I go by the guy that's hawking the Jeep. And I swear to God, they hired a carny to sell this Jeep, and I made the mistake, and you'll cringe when I say it. I made eye contact.
Oh yeah, fatal mistake. Just fuck it, go away.
And I did. I totally did the duck and turn away. And he's like, you, hey you. No, you. And I made the mistake again of turning and looking. And he's like, yeah, you right there. You want this Jeep? And I'm like, oh my God, this is.
Yep.
I can't believe they have a carny trying to give me a Jeep that I don't want to pay the taxes on. and how the hell am I getting it out of here?
No shit. I had a post last year, 2018's RSA. I was stood at the booth I was at, and literally across from me was one of these circus acts with the money in his hand, and he was waving it and that shit. I took a picture. I growled fairly extensively on LinkedIn. It was probably one of the most successful posts I think I've done.
The,
It was
the
like
fishing pole guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like what?
230,000 hits on that one.
Nice.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest one I've done is like 400,000-500,000, which is nuts to me. But that was because yeah, everybody's like, yeah, this is shit. It's crazy. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, AI. I think that's probably the most abused one I think these days. What about you? What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I would tend to agree. So I think IoT is the one that I've met the most amount of non-geek or non-technical that completely understand it. There's not much explanation needed. But I do find myself having a lot of conversations about AI. And whether, I got one friend, he's convinced there's weaponized robot dogs in a shipping container, in some, ghost ship out in the ocean.
You were saying about that. I'm like,
and deep commitment to this idea. No matter how many times I tell him that the practicality of that is slim, it's not off the scale of possible, but it is very unlikely. And you actually need to worry more about how companies like Amazon and Google and Apple, even Apple's guilty of this, how they're using your information, how they're weaponizing your information, how they're politicizing your information, and really, the AI that you should be afraid of are their ranking engines and their statistic and what garbage and flame political content am I going to push to them? That's the AI that scares the shit out of me.
Or what ends up happening, which is where the ranking thing is really interesting, because if you think about it, there's an amazing paper out there. I'll see if I can find it at some point in time. But there's an amazing paper out there that talks about how Google learns who you are. Mm-hmm. And so it serves you more content about who you are. And so when you ask something, it serves you that type of content. So you are literally narrowing yourself, you're backing yourself into a wall and narrowing yourself into such a corridor that your ability to actually use the internet for what we wanted it for like getting all sorts of views and ideas, goes away, because the algorithm is like, I'm just going to offer you this. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to give you this or this because it's on page 6 through 10 or 6 through 2000. And it's really interesting because it was an amazing bit of work that was done. Somebody gave me the heads up. I remember reading it once, and I'm like, that sucks, because it's not even just serving us like the political crap. It's serving us what we want, as opposed to trying to give us the good alternatives and expand our horizon. It's actually narrowing our horizons, and that scares the shit out of me.
I call it the echo chamber effect.
There we go. Yeah, perfect, exactly.
Right? You're staring into a mirror. This is actually what I told my son. I said, never trust this for an honest opinion, because this is designed you're staring into a mirror of your opinions, your preconceived notions, because that's what the algorithm's feeding you. It wants your engagement, and you're going to engage with, you're more likely to engage with things that you're already comfortable and familiar with.
Yeah.
Actually, I just saw, it's a little off topic of acronyms, but I just saw a new news service pop up, and it's a paid text-based news service that is fact-focused. And they actually have editors that curate the news and send you one text blast a day, not a million alerts, breaking news, one text blast by human curated editors. And they always summarize everything to a fact-based statement first, and then they provide the narrative, the editorial, and the details.
That's actually really cool. I mean, I've got my homepage is the BBC. That's about the closest I can get to, not necessarily unbiased, but the closest I can get to a balanced discussion. And especially because it's outside of the borders kind of thing as well. You get a better perspective as to what the hell's going on in the world. It's amazing. Perfect example. Last week or the week before, when the Supreme Court actually granted LBQGL, when they granted like, hey, you're actually really humans.
Yep.
I'm like, Yahoo, NBC, nothing, absolutely fuck all on it, like no coverage. BBC, front page news. I'm like, yes.
Well, and that's another topic for another day is information, disinformation, and misinformation. We
We
can
have that
have a
one.
fun one there.
Oh man, that's the wiser stuff that we keep talking about. I've got literally a set of podcasts that I'm building up for various people to have those conversations on, and that's actually one of them, especially leading up to the election. You know, because perfect. Okay, it's a really nice example. I got hit up with a friend on LinkedIn. Totally awesome. You want to talk about robotic dogs and shit? He hit me up with this amazing, a really cool video, and it was showing this new robot, and it was, if you glanced at it quickly, you glanced at the name, and it glanced quickly as Boston Dynamic, as Boston, whatever the hell they're called.
Right.
But if you looked, it was slightly off spelling. And what it was this amazing graphics company, like 3D effects they do for movies and shit. And they'd done this amazing, like, Boston robot type, like, about 10-minute movie, for one better way of putting it, with people hitting it and it shooting. And in the end, it picked up this dog, one of the autonomous dogs, and ran off with the damn thing. So he sends this to me, and he's like, holy shit, have you seen this? And I went through, I'm like, okay, that's actually really amazing. I'm like, but a really good spoof. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, hang on, you didn't look closely. And he's like,
Right.
no, I totally didn't. He's like, I glanced at it. Because again, he's like, I am trained to glance at these things specifically, and other things I don't have the filter for. And I'm like, okay, let me show it through my eyes. Let me help you understand it through my eyes. And I went through it, and he's like, totally fucking brilliant. He's like, thank you. But it's one of those really interesting things that you suddenly go, I'm always the cynical bastard. I mean, there's very, very little I'm not a cynical bastard about. Some things, but not very much. And I know a lot of people don't operate that way. So when you talk about truth and reality, that scares the hell out of me because so many people don't ask.
This is why I preach healthy skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we used to have. I was raised on don't trust strangers. We had a passcode. If you left the house, you disappeared in a white panelless window van and you showed up on a milk carton.
Yeah.
You did not take anything at face value. Now, granted, I grew up in an urban area and, you know, it was the 90s. Things were a little rough. So you just didn't take anything at face value. You didn't take anyone at face value. And it wasn't about being overly skeptical. It wasn't about being a pessimist. It was about recognizing the reality that the surface may not indicate what's underneath the surface. It's the old iceberg, right?
Yeah.
You see this much.
Yeah.
And does that give you enough of a picture? And so I think we got to, you know, this goes back to what we talked about, analog and digital humans. Digital world seems to lack healthy skepticism, which is why all that crap can work. And I think to tie it back to our topic tonight, it's because of the language we use. It's because when we do try to explain this stuff to people, you know, we have to teach them that fishing is spelt with a P, right? We have to, you know, take and try to translate this stuff. And we're not doing a good job of making it relatable. I'm actually really excited to look at your slides and see kind of how you tie those concepts. But it's because of that lack of relatability, they don't hear us when we talk. And they only give us a little bit of time anyways.
Yeah. It's sorry, I was trying to think. I was actually responding back to poor Evan.
Yeah. Yeah, so just to update everybody, Evan's not feeling well. He won't be with us for the remainder of the show, but he sends his wishes to everyone, wants you guys all to know. Have a good night.
Yeah, you're stuck with the pair of us for the rest of the evening, and I'm out of alcohol, which is even worse. I need to go raid the fridge at some point in time, or not. I'll be fine with what I got. I think I've still got to do some work this evening, or not work. I need to compose a letter. Let's just put it that way.
You know, so I mean, I guess for me, the core of all of this is back to a language problem.
Yeah.
The acronyms are a result of complex language, complex ideas that we're trying to simplify the way we talk about them. You know, all those letters are there because, you know, when you say like, I'll pick on an easy one that most people outside of the tech world, if they work in finance, are familiar with, and that's PCI.
Yeah.
Okay. But the majority of them don't know I've actually had people go, that's personal credit information, right?
Are you serious?
Well, sure.
Oh, no way.
Because they know of it. They're adjacent off at a distance to it. They've heard it.
Yeah.
But nobody's actually said, hey, these are the rules by which the credit card companies have come together as a collective to mitigate and minimize their experience, the amount of fraud that they're experiencing, right? Nobody really explained that. So they knew it had to do with credit cards, and they knew that if the company didn't have it, it was a problem. That was their extent of understanding.
See, the cynical part of me said it's just Visa's way of collecting more funds, but that's a cruel and very cynical way of looking at it.
Well, I'm not saying there's not some truth in that, but you know, and it is a little bit of, and this is what I love about our industry. You know, we are a bunch of cynics. We are people that see the slightly darker shades of life more easily than others. You know, you have
some
to.
Of us. I think you know, it's interesting. I wonder. So here's a question: is that an age, a generation, or a longevity thing? Do you think? Because that would be an interesting one, and I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't know. I guess I've never really stepped out of that thought for a second and looked at it objectively from the outside. I suppose it could be a combo of. I know that, you know, my view on the world has a lot to do with the environments and experiences that I've had, and so I know people can be that way. I've seen people be that way, so I'm already prone to looking at things with a bit of a suspect eye.
The reason I say that is you see all the memes out there. You see the memes with, you know, first day in InfoSec, and everybody's like, yay!
Right.
And then, you know, 3 years later, it's the fucking Yoda that's like, oh.
It's the crypt keeper.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like this industry almost makes us that way. You know, a lot of people are like, well, you know, there are so many issues in this world and so many challenges. How the hell do you sleep at night? Shit's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it sometimes.
So I do think there's truth in that. And I think if you look at long-term, and you know this yourself, long-term military, long-term law enforcement, okay? Long-term social workers, anyone that's really been in what I would consider a high-stress job where confronting ugly and confronting bad is, you know, and confronting those that want to cause harm, I guess is the root one, right? So the root of all of those are confronting those that want to cause harm or confronting difficult situations, generally get jaded after so long. That's why they have to rotate the officers on the sex crimes, right? They have to, it's for their own mental sanity, but it's also for, you know, they start to see things only, you know, they start getting that jaded viewpoint, and it becomes harder for them to see other viewpoints objectively within that sphere.
You also, I mean, the other differences as well on that one, go back to the sex crime stuff and everything else along those lines, is there's counseling. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we went through, when we came back off of ops, we not necessarily counseling, we got talked to. I mean, it was definitely different back then, but today when we do some of the ops stuff that we do, or even the kid related stuff, I can't remember what it is. It's like every 20 hours or 40 hours or something, you are mandated that you will go through some kind of counseling. And it's the same thing for like some of the situational awareness stuff, you know, various things I've done in the life and various bits and pieces, it's mandated. You will go through counseling. Yet in our industry, you know, the dirty little secret is, oh no, we're all fine, we're all okay. And, you know, this is why, like last week, it was like really awesome to see Evan in the Mental Health Hackers t-shirt. Like, yes. Because it is one of those things that we've got to raise the flag on and go, look, to your point, I mean, this is this industry sucks. I mean, it's crazy high stress in some ways, not in other ways. We're not getting shot at on a regular basis. There is that, but there's a lot of other things that we are getting to a point where we are now having to deal with. And so it's like, okay, how do we process that effectively?
Well, you know, and I love that. And we're, you know, hitting on another one. I mean, I think we, you know, one of these days we should do a mental health one and really talk about the mental health toll. Just the basic, I'll give you a great example. You go on an IR, you're on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Big.
And when you're done, you're done. And it might be a couple hours, might be a couple days, you know, that lack of sleep, that high energy on, that laser focus on for that. It's the same thing that happens with all the other industries I've cited, right? A doctor that's on his third shift, third 20-hour shift, right?
Yeah.
You know, that type of stuff ultimately does take a long-term toll. And I think, but I think before we can get there, we've got to connect outside of our tribe. We've got to build a bridge back to the rest of the world.
Well, this is, I mean, I think this goes, again, it brings back to this damn compendium. It brings back to the translation. It brings back to so much of our industry where we have got to go out. I mean, I'm talking to a bunch of folks as I'm putting this together. I'm sending some of these out to people to go, what do you think? Does this make sense? What do you think? Is this, I want it to be a balance. I want it to be educational, a little bit of lighthearted fun, but I don't want people to feel like idiots when they're reading it.
Right.
And for that, I need other sets of eyes. And I'm totally outside of our industry. And there's one amazing person I've sent some of them stuff to. They're complete graphics design artists. That's their life. And they're looking at it from a very different set of eyes I do. I sent it to somebody else who is, again, Jesse's reading it. So now I've got an electrical mechanical engineer, a cynical, basically hillbilly, for a better way of putting this, reading and going, yeah, okay, I like this one. This actually makes sense.
Right. And it's awesome that you're doing that. And more of us, need to do that. I know, like with the 55 plus questionnaire I'm working on, I'm socializing it. So before I publish it as being content, I'm socializing it with my 55 plus crowd. Does this even make sense to you? Because they might look at it and go, what are you trying to say? Or maybe they don't care. One of the ones that is on there that I know is resonating strongly is the growth in smart medicine caps. So IoT pill bottle caps. Okay, that's the thing.
I know it is. Believe me, I broke the little IoT pills that people are ingesting. User ID administrator, password administrator. Yeah.
And so you have these pill caps now that tell you whether grandma, took her meds or not. And the kids have that link to the phone. There's all these different things. Well, if you've got, grandma's medication list in there and that unprotected, no password, no security device, now all of a sudden it's, compromised. Grandma's on mail order medication because you're trying to remote manage her. Well, I know when it's due to arrive on the doorstep. It's that type of stuff. And so when I put it now, if I go to a teenager and I use that, are you kidding? They stopped listening when I said grandma or pill bottle, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
So it's about finding what are those education elements that are going to make the most sense? What are those analogies? And so the work you guys are doing, the work that we're doing to solve for that. Hopefully the listeners, I know a few of the listeners are doing things, right? And I hope to see more of them do things because it is going to take all of us, or at least the majority of us, to start wanting this to be a thing, to start taking extra time to relook at our content. Did we do a good enough job of simplifying? One of the things that I've been really impressed by is I use Grammarly. I don't know if you use Grammarly, but
I keep looking at it, and I had it for a while, and it kind of drove me a little nuts. But
so it does. So it does drive me a little crazy because sometimes I'll go to write an email, it'll pop and it'll pull focus on the screen. But what I realized is my most effective communications were the ones that I got between the 6th and 8th grade level. And when I was being Mr. Smart Pants, when I was using big $10 words and superfluous language, right? When I'm using these big ass words. While Grammarly said it was, brilliant and informative and but it had, college level reading. Got very little engagement compared to when I got it to that 6th to 8th grade level.
Because I have on the Microsoft Office, there's the readability stage. I tend to use that a fair amount. So the reading ease and the Kinect reading scale, I'll use that a lot. Same thing with like passive sentences. That's about, gotta be honest, that's about as close as I get to anything these days.
It's been interesting. I mean, I've noticed the more simple I make the language, the broader the audience that can consume it.
That makes a lot of sense. That's what I'm trying to do with this compendium thing. It's like, okay, I want to make it so that everybody can bloody understand it. I want to do it. So, and again, I will, this is, so, Gabrielle and we've been talking a bunch of stuff about doing like a grandma podcast. I want my mother on a freaking podcast,
Mhm.
And I want, there's a few other people. I think Gabrielle's going to put this up. There's a few other people I've asked. I want to talk with them. I want to go, how do we have the conversation about you? We understand the industry. We understand the mess that the world is in. What can we do to help? How can we help? What can we do to educate? What's the best way to reach people to do this? And I want to have the conversation with them. I want their words. And we're actually going to do the same thing, the other end of the scale. I was going to talk to my daughter, and Gabrielle's got a couple of kids as well. And we're literally going to have a few of them on and go, okay, what do you care about? You're 14, 15, 16, 17. What do you care about? What do you not care about? How do we help you? What can we do to make sure that, your identity, your life is about as much as yours as it possibly can be? So,
well, it's like I like to say, these are life skills. Period, point blank. It's a life skill. This is a new life skill. You live this life. This affects your life. This is real. Now, what are those digital life skills that you need to safely and in a healthy way navigate this? You and I just saw a post on LinkedIn. We both liked the post. I think we both commented on it about the growing trend of underage kids starting as young as 12 of middle schoolers selling their nudes on Snapchat.
yes. Yeah, I saw that one, and
Okay.
the unfortunate irony is I had to deal. So we have an amazing lady that comes and looks after the house and stuff, and her young lady got herself involved in that. And then another friend of mine got hold of me. He's like, hey, my son. And he was talking to me about his son was sharing pictures with some of his friends. I'm like, okay, I will take the badge that I have that's up there off of the shelf for the minute and put it in the drawer. Let me tell you what I could do and what I should do. Now let me tell you what you got to do. Because I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
Well, and the fact that we're not talking about a kid here. We are talking about an entire generation that is manufacturing and selling pornography in middle school.
Yeah.
Because the parents don't have the digital tools necessary, the digital life skills to have the digital birds and bees. Hey,
the tools are there. The tools and the tech is there. The life skills.
Yes, and by tools, let me rephrase that. I mean
like
more
mental tools,
more
and
the mental tools, right?
Yeah,
not
totally.
The tech. The tech is actually pretty sound and solid.
Yeah.
But the parents don't approach it. And another analogy I use when I talk to a parent is you wouldn't give your 3-year-old or 4-year-old a chainsaw, but you will hand them an iPad.
Yep.
With Roblox on it, with the chat feature enabled. Guess what? The chainsaw is less dangerous.
Yeah. Oh no shit. We did the podcast last week on kids, a week before on kids, and I'm like, and I'm holding this up, and same thing. I actually used weaponry because it's weaponry. I'm like, okay, when you actually Chris Hadnady, you fucking love him to death. Chris had an amazing analogy, and his attitude was, look, you don't throw your kid in the lake and tell them go swim. You don't put the kid behind the wheel of a car and go, I'll see you in half an hour, figure out how to drive. But we hand kids these things. This will, and has been proven to kill people.
Yes.
There was that one instance where the young lady basically persuaded her ex-boyfriend or whatever to basically kill himself.
Yep.
Because of using one of these fucking things. I'm like, okay.
I just watched a documentary about the Veterans Child Rescue Foundation. And, they're doing great work. They're helping, they're helping law enforcement to bridge that gap.
Yep.
Right?
I know that guy.
Because, if the cops do it, it's entrapment.
Exactly.
If I do it. Well,
yeah. As long as the data data arrives in the right place in a clean manner. Yep, been there.
So, one of the things they talked about though was the blackmail aspect or the extortion aspect that the predators use to exploit the kids. So the kid will go 1 inch, the predator grabs onto that, uses that to get the kid to go a foot, You then turns and uses that to get the kid to go a mile. Before you know it, the kid's getting in a car and they're getting trafficked across the border.
But we did that. I mean, we used to do that with interrogation techniques. I mean, that's exactly how we interrogated people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, we had two options. We either did that or we got hold of the wrench, and it was, one option. Take your pick at that point.
But and that so what I find interesting, I'm an old school parent. If it was in my house, ultimately it belonged to me. And while I think you want me to respect your privacy, I'm gonna not do that. And I'm going to not do that because I know better than you, because I'm the adult. And I know that looking out for you now will serve you leaps and bounds later. I know that, my kid, I've told this story a handful of times, maybe even on the show, but he wanted to do the YouTube thing back in the day before it was even popular. He's like, Dad, people will watch me play video games. This is before Discord, any of that.
Yeah.
And what I heard was, I want a webcam in my bedroom so strangers can watch me. And I'm like, not a chance, not in a million years.
Right.
Well, in hindsight, I'm glad that I took the risk I did. Granted, he could be a multimillionaire at this point for playing with slime, but you know what? It's okay. He got the cards he got dealt, and but there was always that concern, and I didn't realize how many other parents that wasn't a trigger for them. Then when the kid said, I want a webcam in my bedroom to talk to strangers on the internet, they're like, oh, okay, have fun with your friends.
Right. But the problem is now we hand them these things. These things, built-in cameras, recording video, the whole damn lot. And that's, so with Mo, I took a slightly different approach. I'm like, look, you know what I do for a living. You also know what I do on the other side of the world. Let me explain to you why I do that, how I do that, and what I do. So for me, it was the education standpoint. I'm like, I have the ability to watch every single packet coming in and leaving this house. I even have the ability to watch the packets that you think are going straight up to, AT&T or Verizon. So let's have that conversation. I don't want to have to watch them. I don't want to have to police you. I'm going to educate you, because at some point in time, something's going to happen and I won't be here. So let me try to help you understand how to make smarter decisions. And so it was that level of discussion with her, and keeping an eye on things and going, what are you doing? How are you doing? What are you looking at? And then sometimes trusting and validating.
Yes. And I think it goes back to, so many people even now don't know that a webcam can be remotely activated.
Oh, tell me about it. Little snitch. I love micro snitch on the Mac, because it's really interesting to see how often there's somebody, you've got a web browser open, all of a sudden it's trying to access the camera. I'm like, fuck the hell off. Yeah.
And I think, and so as we think about how to fix the communication barrier, right? So if I go to a parent and I want to have that conversation, I don't start off by saying, well, you see, if you had an IPsec tunnel and you had segmented this camera over onto a VLAN on the guest network with MAC filtering and some deep packet inspection, you see, you could avoid.
Yeah, blast over, no fucking clue.
When I say the bad man can talk to your kid while they're in their bedroom, don't put a camera there unless you want the bad man to talk to your kid. They go, I don't want the bad man to talk to my kid.
Right, exactly.
Right. So I think we've got to do a better job of because I think if we start to interact with our outside tribe better, we'll actually interact with our inside tribe better.
Yeah, I would agree. The challenge is twofold. If we to bring people from the outside into the inside, we've got to go back and, to Evan's point earlier on, we've got to go back and to actually flip in, to be honest, smack down some of the stupidity of people that are like, well, you don't belong in here, or any of that stupid shit, right. Or you don't have enough time. It's like, quit that fucking shit.
I just had a call this week with a young man. People, that know me know that I'm always willing to help somebody find their path, whether it's this career or a different career or whatever, if they need somebody to talk to work through stuff. And so I talked to this wonderful young man. He's got a degree in psychology. He's working in finance, because apparently the finance people are now hiring psychologists to work on projects.
Oh, that's fucking scary. No, I don't like that. That's bad. No shit.
So, and so he's in the earliest stages of his career, and he's still trying to do the explore. What do I really want to be when I grow up? He's doing this internship on this project, whatever. And he contacts my buddy, and my buddy says, InfoSec is smoking hot. It's like a burning hot industry. So I start talking to him. Well, he's not technical. And I asked him, I said, what's your comfort level with technology? And he's like, not really. I mean, I can check some email, I can do this, I can do that, but I'm not comfortable with it outside of just standard end user stuff. But he's got that psychology background. And so I started to explain that there's a need for that too. There's a role for that too, as we, because we touch everything, because we're as, universal as electricity these days. Right? We're everywhere. There isn't any industry or any system that doesn't have some component that involves us or should involve us.
Totally.
And so it was just interesting. But I couldn't use any tech terms. So he asked me to explain information security, and I could not get into any depth of detail.
Yeah.
And so what he was most curious about was, well, what's a hacker?
Yeah.
Right. And I went on the whole, okay, let's first draw a line between criminals. Hackers are curious people that make things work in ways the manufacturer didn't intend.
Yep.
Da 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 da. And then I started talking about social engineering, and his ears perked up. Oh, because that's psychology.
Yep. Oh,
right. So it was
big time.
But it took me. I had to walk him into even the most basic stuff because he didn't have an understanding. That guy's probably going to end up being a pretty badass social engineer in the end.
The challenge, so this comes back to something we're going to have to talk about next week or the week after, or whenever we do it. The challenge is bringing those people in and having that headroom to, as well as I do, I know I have to be, I'm over 100% billable just because it's my research company. I'm doing a lot of the stuff, and I'm about 130% billable at the moment. Probably slightly more than that, to be honest. Although that's going to change in the next couple of weeks. But you've got to have that headroom to allow somebody to come in and not automatically want to put them into a pigeonhole to be billable. To have that person go, look, I need you, I want you to help me develop something, go through something, understand something, work with the team, work with our clients, and do it in a way where you're not clock watching, you're not watching the bills, and you accept that. And so there are not many companies, not many small to medium companies that are set up for that. And even the big boys, sometimes they're sitting there going, okay, you've got to be at least 40% billable. And so you almost lose that, say, innocence, you almost lose that level of, independence, should we say, for one way of putting it. And then they could just come in and they end up in the industry, and now you've lost that alternate view. You've lost the outsider looking in kind of set of eyes.
And we'll unpack that more because I think that's rooted in how we educate and when we educate.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
all that. But
yeah, no, it's hard to disagree with them. And it's again, I think that's why, go back to the DevSecOps type of the world. That's almost why I like that, because we have the ability to step in and out of those worlds. Right. But we also bring that unique perspective. So you typically always get 3 different sets of eyes and thoughts and brains on a problem, even though if you've done it properly, you're all interchanging anyway.
Right. No, I completely agree. Well, sir.
Yeah. What have we done? We've been yakking for a while. It's been good.
We'll call it here, but good chat. And again, Evan wishes you all a wonderful night. I wish you all a wonderful night.
I do too. Yeah. Thanks for everybody hanging out and listening. Much appreciated. And this was fun. This was a good one. And keep an eye out. The compendium, version 1 of the compendium will probably be out this coming week or next week or some point in time soon. Let's put it that way. And it'll be a living document. We'll keep adding to the thing. We'll have some fun with it.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem.
So you'll see Evan probably before I do. Say hi and hugs to him for me, please.
I will. See you next week, everybody.
Take care.